So the official patch notes are out for the Season 4 update, and we've got a lot of big changes coming with this update. We're going to get through these as quickly as possible, as always. If you do enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we try to reach our goal of 50k, and click that link and subscribe to our second channel as well. Now let's get straight into this. So obviously we're going to get a new battle pass. We don't really need to talk too much about this, but we've got 2 new weapons coming. We've got the Macro 5 SMG, we've got the UGM LMG, we've got a couple of weapons coming within the season as well. So obviously we'll get that later on in the season, but we will be making videos covering both of these weapons once it drops, hopefully in an hour or so. Now when it comes to overall battle pass progression, it's going to be increased by 10% for players that buy the battle pass, all that kind of stuff. There's new events, so this is going to be a couple of different probably game modes and things like that. But like I said, we don't really need to worry too much about this. You're just going to get different kind of rewards, so weapon charms, stickers, all that kind of stuff. Maybe we might get a blueprint. It doesn't really mention anything like that. So we've got the armored trucks which are coming in. We already know about this so far. The player crown on Caldera, on the limited time mode of blood money, the player count is increased from 120 down to up from 100. And then players drop more cash on death, but this is more for like plunder and stuff like that, so it's not really a big deal. When it comes to Fortune's Keep Resurgence, player counts are going to be different based on the game mode. So for solos it's going to be 46, duos is 46, trios is 45, and quads is 40. Now this is probably just going to be a kind of gameplay thing, just because of how many players actually come back, to keep the pacing very similar for these game modes. Plus obviously there's an even and odd number of teams and teammates, so obviously it kind of makes sense. Then we're moving on to map changes. So obviously we've got the Fortune's Keep map, which we already covered in a previous video, so we don't really need to talk too much about this. We'll gain access to this very shortly anyway. And then we've got the screenshots for this new map as well. It does look pretty cool, let's be perfectly honest. Hopefully it's just as good as Rebirth Island. That would be very ideal. So a couple of cool extra things that again added into this as well. So we're getting new tactical equipment, which is absolutely insane, so we'll get that in just a second. But we've got Mercenary Cash Extraction, which is a new public event. So AI units will attempt to airlift cash. If you intercept it, you gain rewards. It's kind of like when those armored vehicles are dropped in on Rebirth Island. It's just kind of like an in-game event type thing. Black Market Supply is a new contract. This contract requires players to track down the black market buy station before the timer expires, kind of like a supply run essentially. Then we've got the sequencer grenade, which is a new tactical equipment. This tactical grenade applies visual distortion effect with floating red numbers on the victim screen, as well as auditory debuff. Players can counter this effect with battle hardened perk or using a stim. Can only be acquired through a new back market buy station, so it's not really a tactical equipment that you can use all the time. It's just a kind of limited time thing from the looks of it so far. Kind of weird. I wish they just kind of added in new tactical and lethal equipment on a regular basis instead of adding like new weapons all the time. Change the gameplay up a little bit. Obviously we've got some slight adjustments to the Caldera match, which we covered in a previous video as well. So we've got Storage Town now, we've got micro POIs, we've got new bunkers, and they've obviously got rid of 50% of the vegetation, basically meaning the trees and all that kind of stuff, which will help overall with gameplay on other consoles, PCs, everything like that. You don't need to render in nearly as much. They've updated the fighter jet or fighter plane gameplay, and weapon trade stations are added to Caldera as well, which is pretty cool in my opinion. I think that's a really good addition. Gameplay, so armored SUVs are new vehicles, EMP grenade, new tactical equipment for all game modes, is going to allow you to kind of disable vehicles and things like that. So that's actually pretty cool. It's a really good addition in my opinion. So deactivates vehicle engines for 10 seconds, very, very solid. And it can be reduced, not countered out by battle hardened perk. Broken ATMs are going to give you more cash, so I don't really know where these ATMs are. I don't know if they're within the map or certain areas, but we'll need to see. Portable redeploy balloon. This is actually pretty cool. I don't know if this is going to be like a field upgrade. I wish it was. If this is a field upgrade, this is going to be absolutely solid. Can be placed on the ground and then you can use it as many times as you like. Quality of life updates. So we've got loadout crate, UI selection. So we've got slight adjustments of players selecting maybe the wrong loadouts or something. So they fixed that. Gas mask animation, brake animation will no longer interrupt the parachute when falling. Really cool there. I mean, gas mask animation needed fixed kind of a long time ago anyway, so they've kind of sorted that out. Buy station menu option added to settings menu to allow player to enable ability to remain in the buy station while making multiple purchases. That's kind of cool. I don't really, I suppose it's a kind of good quality of life thing to have. Deployable buy station will now live longer in the gas. Okay, that's pretty cool. Fire sale public event. Self-revive will now have a small associated cost similar to other items. It was usually free, so maybe that's why they've changed it. Infill POI text. That's not really too important. Out of bounds timer. Increased to 10 seconds up from 5 seconds. Okay, so this is basically going to just show players that they've got 10 seconds to move. Gulag audio, spectator audio is now going to be non-existent, muted. Yeah, so pretty much that's pretty cool. On-screen hit markers reduced of on-screen hit markers when players are being hit to better show recent hit direction. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's like the HUD thing that comes up at the top. Maybe that's what they're talking about here. And redeploy positioning. So after a gulag victory, you'll spawn closer to your teammates, which is obviously ideal. Ground loot perks have changed. Obviously, Ghost is now one of them, so we need to keep that in mind. Amped is one of them, which is pretty solid too. Battle hardened will increase the resistance to flashes and stuns by 70% now, which is huge. So battle hardened might actually be very useful now. Awards to Scavenger gains an additional 500 in the Scavenger pouch with each kill. That's pretty good too. I think it should be a bit more than that, in my personal opinion, but also we'll see how it plays out. Provides 25% discount on all buy station items, including loadout drops as well. So hardline might actually be extremely solid for one player in a squad to have. Restock perk recharge time is increased to 30 seconds from 25 seconds. It just avoids spam, especially on those kind of, what do you call them, the things that show up players all the time. I can't remember what that tactical equipment's called, but yeah. Radar jammer reduced drop rate chances in Rebirth, Resurgence, and Fortune's Keep, which is going to be useful in my opinion because you get it a lot, especially on Rebirth. Tactical equipment snapshot grenade radius, snapshot grenades I was talking about, is being reduced to 22 meters down from 27. I don't think this is a huge nerf, to be honest, because it's still pretty powerful, but we'll see how it plays in game. Obviously, we've got the 2 new weapons coming, which we'll cover later on, so I'm going to run through that quickly. I don't really want to talk too much about it. Then we've got unlock challenges changed for the Nikita and the marksman rifle. Now we've got weapon adjustments to the AK-74 from Cold War. Sustained recoil slightly increased, so they've just nerfed the shit out of this gun, let's be honest. So don't use the Cold War AK, I mean, it's quite obvious. Increased standing hipfire accuracy, so I mean, they're just buffing the vanguard weapons as well. Horizontal recoil control increase, so they've made it easier to control the AS44. Keep in mind this gun actually has one of the fastest TTKs in the game at the moment. Vertical recoil control now increased by 12%, so they've increased the recoil control on the AS44, so making it easier. Assault rifle Charlie for Vanguard. I don't know if this is the STG. No, this is the bar. Neck damage multiplier increased from 1.1. Recoil control decreased, so they make it harder to control, but obviously hits a bit harder now. Recoil decreased on the rapid barrel. Recentering speed increased by 3%. Visual recoil decreased, so the rapid barrel might actually be the way to go, because recoil has been decreased overall for this gun. So the Bard is still going to be a solid gun, let's be honest here. So muzzle velocity is decreased, movement speeds decreased, damage range decreased, but these are not huge changes, let's be honest here. Vertical recoil control decreased on the remove stock, but no one really used that anyway. Cooper Carbine, recoil intensity adjusted to account for less reliance on tight grip. So they basically made it easier to control, so I don't really know what they're doing here. Basically just buffing every Vanguard weapon from the looks of things. Gracie Rapid, this means that they're gonna, headshot multiplier has been increased and upper torso damage penalty removed. So again, they're just kind of buffing these weapons overall from the looks of it. Assault rifle Bravo Vanguard, I don't know, this is not the STG, I don't think. Muzzle velocity increased, upper torso damage multiplier increased. Again, yeah, so Vanguard guns are just getting a buff from the looks of it. Minimum damage is increased on the KG-M40, Nikita. Max damage has been increased as well. So overall, we're just getting buffs to the Vanguard guns. Black Ops Cold War damage, range increased. Wow, big, huge buff right there. That's not really going to change much for this gun, let's be honest. NZ41, the burst barrel, this is important. Burst fire cooldown is being decreased, so people are using the burst fire more, I don't really know. Burst fire now supports auto burst mode. Hold the fire to continue firing in bursts. So they've changed it, so it doesn't fire in full auto, it fires full auto in bursts. So essentially you hold in the trigger, it's still going to fire in bursts. So a good adjustment, I guess, because it makes the gun not so overpowered anymore. Muzzle velocity is now increased on the 360mm barrel. Visual recoil has been decreased overall. Horizontal recoil controls increased, so you can just use the full auto barrels now. This gun will still be really good, so I mean, it doesn't really make any sense. Assault rifle alpha, this is the STG pretty much. Minimum damage is being decreased by like a tiny amount. I don't even think this is going to change the TTKs from the looks of it. We will go over all of these details, by the way, in our videos when we cover all the weapons and the top 5 weapons to use. Muzzle velocity decreased. I mean, not a huge change there. Damage range decreased. Visual recoil increased. I don't think it's a huge change in my personal opinion, but no need to see. Muzzle velocity increased. Raise time decreased, which is good because it did actually raise quite slow. Recoil control increased, which is good. Surprisingly, I don't know why they've buffed this weapon. Because we do actually have a new Vargo coming out soon, and obviously it's a Vanguard gun, so usually they'll push it. So they've actually buffed the Vargo. Kind of weird. Visual recoil decreased on the Volk. Launchers, inner damage increased 275 up from 250. Basically, I think they've just buffed all the launchers across the board, especially to take out vehicles and things like that, especially with the new EMP. And the fact that health was increased overall anyway. Light machine guns now, so max damage is increased, max damage range, sorry. Max damage is increased also on the Whitley. I don't know why they're buffing this gun quite a lot, because it's already a pretty powerful LMG. But I think they're trying to make LMGs a bit more useful now. I'm not really too sure. Damage range now increased by 15%. DP27 muzzle velocity is increased. Cool, good change. I think they need to control the recoil a bit more in this gun. Light machine gun Charlie Vanguard, which is the MG, whatever it's called. Muzzle velocity is increased. Type 11 muzzle velocity increased, or it's not maybe. The MG is here. So I don't know what LMG this is. I can't even remember now. So recoil intensity adjusted to account for less reliance on tight grip, so making the recoil control better once again. Max damage increase, and then minimum damage increase as well, so overall buff to the LMGs for Vanguard there. M1 Grand got an upper torso damage buff. Neck multiplier got buffed. SVT got a buff to the multipliers. Crossbow bullet velocity is increased. Shadowhunter crossbow bullet velocity is increased. So overall, every Vanguard weapon has just had a buff, really. We will go over all the details, and I still think the marksman rifles are going to be trash, to be honest, even though they decreased a flinch on them. They could kind of serve a purpose of being the new sniper rifles, but I think they'll need to make sure they're using AR ammo to even make them viable. We've got melee weapons here, so overall, swing time interrupt delay for the katanas has been decreased, so they're making them a bit more viable now. The TTKs on these are still going to be pretty slow, so I think they're just adjusting it from the TTK changes that happened earlier. So these are all just the melee weapons that they've adjusted. Handguns, upper torso multipliers decreased on the AMP, lower torso multiplier decreased, so max damage increased to 32 up from 31. Handgun Charlie Black Ops Cold War, I'm not too sure what this is. Is this the Diamati pistol? Max damage decreased. Again, I think it might be the Diamati pistol because it's still pretty popular. The Rat max damage is increased, so again, nerfing the Black Ops guns, buffing the Vanguard guns in terms of pistols. You've got SMG changes here as well, so we're going to quickly go through these. Armageddon max damage increased, good buff there. Max damage decrease to max damage range decreased a little bit, but again, not a huge change. Body barrel, which is the main one, max damage is increased. Max damage range is decreased, so the damage range decreased, but the damage itself has been increased. Again, I think this is just going to make the Armageddon a better weapon overall. Then we've got Blixen, mid damage decrease, so that's in the kind of medium range. Movement speed scaler is being decreased not by much at all, to be honest. ADS movement speed scaler is being decreased, again not by much either. Muzzle velocity is being increased on the main barrel, so again it's kind of just like a buff really. And then the Grenko mags headshot multipliers decreased. They haven't really changed I think this is the main mags here anyway. So Mac 10 minimum damage is being increased, which is a slight buff. Headshot multipliers being increased as well. Owen gun upper torso multiplier damage is being decreased to 25% down from 45%. That's actually a pretty good nerf, to the Owen gun, so might not be as popular anymore because this is a huge nerf, especially considering that the fire rate on this gun is pretty slow as well. So that's actually a pretty big nerf in my opinion. Gwyn's shrouded barrel max damage range increased, upper torso multiplier decreased. So overall the Owen gun did get a nerf here, so I mean it's not really going to be all that popular, but let's be honest, the Blixen was kind of the new main SMG anyway. Then we've got the PPSH, Nambu mags, muzzle velocity increase, cool. Recoil intensity slightly decreased, so it's not going to be as crazy with the recoil. Sten minimum damage increased overall, so minimum, max and mid. So overall just got a huge damage buff. Type 100 lower extremities damage multiplier has been decreased, so that's going to be anything kind of like the shins, the lower arms, things like that are going to have a less multiplier, but I don't think this is going to make a huge change to the TTK of this gun. Vertical recoil control now decreased by 2.5%. Fire rate decreased as well. Okay, so this is a good nerf to the Type 100 because the TTK on this gun was absolutely insane. Well gun lower extremities damage multiplier again reduced as well, but the well gun is mainly used because of its recoil control benefits. The sniper rifles, the following aggressive snipers now adopt the lowest tier of flinch. These utilize the flinch settings that previously only marksman rifles, Charlie and the Swiss had. In addition, we've made slight reduction of flinch at this tier. So what they've done is they've reduced the flinch because these guns don't do as much damage, and then that's pretty solid as well, but they've also reduced the flinch of the heavy snipers as well. I think this is a good change actually, in my personal opinion. It's just going to make it a bit more viable. They've fixed some of the kind of semi-auto snipers in terms of max damage is being decreased, but the fire rate is being increased, so overall probably the same in terms of TTK. No one really uses that. 3-line rifle, the ADS time is being decreased, which is pretty good here. And then we've got ADS speeds being increased across the board more or less. Tactical rifles, tactical rifle Charlie, Black Ops Cold War, max damage increased. This might be the M16 or the AUG, one of the two. But the overall tac rifle got a damage buff. Attachments as well. Whew, we got a lot of stuff to get through here. So MX silencer, vertical recoil control decreased across every gun. Yes, yeah. So pretty much it has been a decrease across the board. G62 compensator flinch resistance now increased by 20%. So this might actually be a bit more viable for sniper rifles now. So a very smart move there. I want to see the hand stop under barrel is not on here. So that was the main one everyone's using anyway. So let's be perfectly honest, no one really cares too much. Rear grips, flinch resistance decreased to 50% down from 95%. I didn't realize that it actually helped the flinch resistance as well. It wasn't really something that was stated in game, I don't believe. Hatch grip, vertical recoil control now increased 2.5%. Flinch resistance now increased 10%. They'll probably just add the flinch resistance on a different attachment. Flinch resistance now increased to 25%. So this is going to help with a lot with sniper rifles because you can basically build it for like no flinch whatsoever, which is going to be pretty handy. So overall, we've got a bit more variability when it comes to attachments here, which is pretty good. They just don't need to have that many attachments in the game in general. Then we've got a lot of bug fixes, which we don't really need to go over here. And the download file size is going to be 21 gigabytes. If you did enjoy this video, don't forget to subscribe as we try to reach our goal of 50k. I'll leave a link to this in the description down below as well. Thank you very much for watching.